Hey, Daniel, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Now, I'm in awe for a start. I'll kick that. It's like a coming to Jesus moment. I saw you speak on stage with Ryan Dice at a
Hmm.
War Room event in Austin recently.
Yeah.
And there were a number of things that actually resonated with me. But as everyone knows, I like an old fashioned, I like a bit of Japanese whiskey and stuff. You're known as the whiskey wizard. Now,
Yeah, evidently now.
yeah. Now the funny thing is, when we were hearing from your story, and that's that, I'm going to obviously drop that hook.
Hmm.
You've got an incredibly successful whiskey tribe, but it's not where you started. You were more in the music industry. So
Yeah.
talk to us about what was it you were doing in the music industry, and how did you get into being one of the biggest influencers in the world of whiskey? And I will say, in creating a tribe.
Yeah. Ass backwards. That's how. I mean, I started playing when I was 11, 12 with my dad, playing drums behind my dad's bands. And that sort of just started a thread all the way. I ended up doing 18 years as a studio and touring musician. Living in playing everywhere, all over. I think even as a touring musician, I hit 47 of the 50 states, most of Europe, Canada. Very lots of travels. I did a lot of session work, so I backed people, and then I had various solo bands, and then I got off the road around the time that I had a 4 5-year-old and 1 2-year-old, two boys, and I was in a hotel in Portland and just felt weary was the right word for it. I mean, I'd been on the road averaging 130, 150 shows a year, and that didn't count travel time. And so I just thought I'd always loved it. I just ate it, loved it. But then I was sitting at a hotel and just thought, I want my boys to remember me. you know, I mean, I'd already watched my oldest take his first steps on a video that
Ouch.
my then wife had sent me, and so I just canceled everything, anything that wouldn't put anybody out, that people had time to come up with a plan. And I came back to Austin after having lived all over, and was just recording in my studio and producing other people and kind of looking for the next thing, and stumbled on to this place called Wizard Academy in South Austin, which is a business school for entrepreneurs. And through random, very strange events, ended up becoming the vice chancellor of Wizard Academy, or as I prefer to think of it, the chancellor of vice. And and so I did that for 3 years or so. I think it's 3 or 4 years before. So we teach communications at Wizard Academy. I'm now the chancellor of Wizard Academy, but we teach business communications and business marketing and advertising and employee staff training. All anything having to cover an entrepreneur life, we engage in it, but with a heavy emphasis on communications.
Okay.
Um, and I had an entry level background into the wine som world from when I lived in California, and then I backed out of it because I realized at an event where I was in the room with all the soms that I didn't like wine near as much as any of them did, and it occurred to me that might be a problem. So maybe I was on the wrong path. But what I loved about that training was the deductive tasting techniques, and the way that you arrive at an understanding of something in a glass, not based on some sort of black magic, but based on an understanding of the process and an understanding of the ingredients and an understanding of everything that goes into what ends up in a glass. And then it's pattern recognition. And when I got to Wizard Academy, we were teaching pattern recognition, how the brain interprets communication, and how the brain interprets marketing patterns and written patterns and sound. And I realized, oh, this is what they were teaching in wine som. But at the same time, I'd spent a decade plus getting really into whiskey. And I thought, man, no one is teaching whiskey people this. Like, all of the whiskey people who use this language either came out of 40 years of working at a distillery in Scotland or Ireland or in Kentucky, or they came from the wine som program and brought that knowledge into whiskey with them. But it's the whiskey is just sort of getting its momentum rolling right now, and there's no one approaching it and talking about how a wine expert or a whiskey expert is their job should be as a shepherd to get people into the next phase of their journey. And so we decided, fuck it, we're going to do that. We're going to train whiskey sommeliers. And so I put together a team. And
how long ago was that? Sorry to break it. What
6
year
years.
was this?
7
6 years ago.
Years. I think 6 years.
6 years.
I think. Yeah.
All
wait.
right.
09 to 13. 7 years.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry. No, that's not. I can't remember the math. It's not long. It's maybe 6, 7 years. And so yeah, we built that program and immediately started developing the levels of training that and our approach to training. We spent about 8 months building the program and then launched the first class. And then we just sort of built and adjusted as we taught and grew and pinged the wall on like, no, that wasn't effective. Let's change that. And then around the first year of that school, about 5 years ago now, or first couple of years of the school, I started YouTube videos of talking about whiskey, just picking up a glass and sort of reviewing it, but mostly just kind of talking about the experience. The goal being to show the students that we were teaching, this is what it's like to talk about whiskey in a non-asshole way.
Yeah, I've got it. Okay, so first of all, we got to jump in. I hate waiting to the end. What is the link? What is the whole address to get into the YouTube channel of yours?
For the original channel is the Whiskey Vault. So it's just youtube.com/Whiskey Vault with a E in whiskey.
Okay.
And then the other channel that we started is Whiskey Tribe, also whiskey with an E.
Now, the thing about these, and I want to be very clear, and that's why I asked you about the age. If you say you're into wine, people expect you've got horses and an estate and a Range Rover and stuff like that. If you're telling them you're into whiskey, they ask what truck you got. You know, there was always, now whiskey has changed over the years.
Yeah, it has.
But it's still definitely more of a redneck. And everyone knows I love whiskey,
right?
But everyone still thinks, yeah, that's more of a thug drink.
A little more blue collar.
Yeah.
It's like ordering a Stella.
Exactly. And I remember when you went up on stage, you actually lit it out beautifully because there's an immense amount of snobbery behind wine.
Yeah.
And people always asked you the questions of what's the best whiskey and what's the best glass to drink certain whiskey. You've got a beautiful set of answers. So hit me with them.
The right answer is what's the best whiskey is the whiskey you like. And the right way to drink it is however the fuck you want. And the right glass is whichever one you're holding or you can get your hands on, preferably with only one opening.
And the videos you do are a clusterfuck of two guys having shits and giggles.
Yeah.
And occasionally referring to the whiskey that they have somewhere in the vicinity.
Just occasionally.
I would say that and of course, like, you know, great things take planning. I'm not sure how much planning went into some of your videos.
Way more than you would imagine. Yeah.
But they've been done so well. You really have built a relaxed environment. And I wouldn't be amazed. I have to get that correct. I wouldn't be amazed that there are a ton of people that subscribe to you just for the humor and communication and fun, and maybe don't even like whiskey.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have a regular comment on either of our channels is, I don't even drink whiskey, but I watch every video you guys release. Or, hey, I'm actually have given up on alcohol completely, but I still come back and watch your shows.
And how many subscribers do you have?
Oh, shit. I don't know. I think it's around 400K on each channel, somewhere in that ballpark.
So let's, again, sorry for going all over the place, but
no, it's okay.
You started this like 6-7 years ago, around that ballpark, when we were just starting to see the kind of like, you know, Japanese whiskeys coming over and, you know, it was becoming a little bit more trendy to go to a whiskey bar because a whiskey bar people thought was going to be out front with a bunch of bikes. Now a whiskey bar is quite an establishment,
Right.
especially in Austin and with the speakeasies and the
Yeah.
revivals of those. But you went into this, you started the videos, and you started to build up a community. Was the focus to build up the community that you had?
Not at first. We stumbled into that by accident, and then when we recognized what had happened, then we went intentional from there forward. So, when I first started shooting the videos, I think I had like 30 subscribers, and the goal wasn't to grow a community. The goal was just to show it was a training thing. It was just training for the students
On how to drink whiskey?
or know how to talk about whiskey and not be an asshole.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
it. It was just like, hey guys, you graduated these classes. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about when I say you can explain and talk about whiskey, but you don't have to be pretentious. And so that's all it was. And then we did a series of an advent calendar where we reviewed a whiskey every day for the month of December. And it just so happens the first whiskey that got released in that calendar on December 1st was a whiskey that was only ever released in the calendar. And there was no content about it on the internet. So on December 1st, everyone woke up and then opened their advent calendar and got this whiskey and then went online and Googled it. And there were only 2 results. One was the website where you bought the advent calendar. And the second one was our YouTube video. And we went from 30 subscribers to a few thousand in like a week. And so just completely by accident, just being in the right place at the right time. And then those people started interacting and commenting, and I started talking to them in the comments, and this whole community just sort of exploded in the comments of the YouTube videos. And from there on out, we started doing it very intentionally.
Now, that's usually the tipping point where most entrepreneurs go shit scared and fuck something up. When they want traction, they want following, they want virality, and then they get it and they go, crap, what do I do now? You took a very much of a focused stance on going, okay, I've got this momentum now. Forget how I got there. I'm going to move with intention. How did you move with intention?
Well, for the first thing we did was write the recipe for what it was we thought we were doing that had gotten everyone to show up and stick around. And that recipe was very loose, and we intentionally kept it loose, and then we've never overthought it since then, which was 2 random guys with the goal being just guys that you wish you were at the bar drinking with. And a kind of conversation that it feels like you're standing around the bar drinking with them. One of them knows a lot about whiskey, and the other one knows nothing, but he's there to get free whiskey. And the guy who knows a lot about whiskey is trying to explain everything to the guy who doesn't know anything about whiskey. And that guy is actively, aggressively not giving a shit the whole time and pretending to listen, but really he's just there for the whiskey. And that recipe is every buddy cop movie you've ever, it's the Odd Couple. It's right. It's that recipe always works. And so we codified that's the thing. So early days of that, there were regularly moments where we'd shoot something, and then Rex, my business partner, he's the editor and the video genius. He would come back and cut like a bunch of things. He's like, Daniel, you violated your character in this. You have to be the knowledgeable guy, not the mooch guy. I'm the mooch guy. We can't. And we've gotten a little bit more loose with that, but that was the outline, and it stays that way, right? And then the other thing we did was come up with a show order so that there was this familiarity to every episode of there's always an intro, there's always the body, there's always the rap, there's always the comment, and then there's always the outro toast. And then inside of there, we just make shit up, and there's no dialogue written or anything like that. There's just, okay, you got to hit these beats inside of 15 minutes. And anytime we sense it's ready for the next one of us will lead into the next beat, and we'll just keep going. And now it's we've been doing it for 6 years, or 5 years or whatever. Anyway, so yeah,
you got your rhythm.
That was how calculated it became. But the community part of it, that was just content delivery intention, right? So that we didn't like accidentally leave behind everything that made us the DNA of what drew people. Then with the community, we just actively started engaging them as much as possible, trying to constantly tear down the fourth wall at every opportunity. And we did it in the comments. We did it by naming people on the show and talking to them like they were there, and ball busting people we had never met for about something they had said or done, and giving them shit. And then and that started a whole new thing.
Now, again, I always wait. I hate waiting until the end. So if anyone's enjoying this as much as I am, head over to the wizardacademy.org or whiskymarketing.org, and you're going to get to see more about Daniel Whittington there. So you've done the videos. What is there a maximum minimum time frame that you do these videos for? Is there a cutoff? Do you go, hey, I'm only going to do these for 20 minutes, or do you just do them until you're bored?
We try to keep them at 15 minutes or less.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Now,
So
some of them
consumable.
Yeah, if they go, and honestly, that's shooting. You're usually edited down to 8 to 12, 13 minutes. And that's on the Whiskey Vaults. That's on the review channel. Every once in a while they'll go long, and we'll get like a 20-minute video in there, and everyone's like, hey, this is great. And we're like, oh, that's exhausting. Because we release 5 a week. On Monday through Friday, a video comes out. So we batch shoot like 4 or 5 at a time. So we'll shoot for like 2 hours, and then that'll get cut up into 5 episodes. And then on the Saturday episodes, which is the Tribe channel, that can take anywhere from an hour to 3-4 hours of shooting in a week, and then gets chopped down to 25 minutes or so.
Wow. So you had, so you built up the videos. You built them up as an exercise about how to talk about something without appearing like an arsehole. And again, there is so many lessons from this that can go over into any of your businesses. So you're singularly pointing out that the whole way you can stay in business is through communication, to give the people that are listening to you what they want by communicating and engaging. And you've said your action, and it wasn't certainly not going to take anything away from you, Daniel, but it wasn't genius. It was just simplicity, that if someone's making a comment, engage them, talk to them.
It's fundamentals. It's just fundamentals. That's it. I mean,
that's what I liked.
What you get into business and you realize is most of the people you're up against haven't even attempted to handle the fundamentals. And that's what brings down a company. It's not the lack of raw genius in the leadership. It's the lack of execution of fundamentals. And it's so rare that when someone does well, everyone around them is like, oh my God, you must have come down from on high. It's like, no, you're Zappos. You've mastered the art of customer service. It's like, no, they just did good customer service. Like that was, you remember that old movie? Was it Miracle on 34th Street, where Santa ends up working at the...
I know exactly the thing you're going to talk about now. Yep.
Yeah. And so all he did was, some lady, he was supposed to be working in the department store. Some lady came and asked him where this thing was, and he said, oh, we don't carry that, but the store down the street does. And he got in trouble. And then like the next day she came back and she was just raving about how this place is amazing. I'm going to do all my shopping here because you guys are, and that became store policy of like, if we can't get it for you, we will find it and tell you where you can get it. That's just basic human decency. But somehow it's remarkable.
It is. That was actually Alison Janis that was the woman in there.
Yeah.
And the funny thing, just to name, she was my next door neighbor
about
3 years ago. Yeah. And it was funny, through all of the stuff that she's done, and she did West Wing, and she was one of these actresses that popped up in like every Steve Carell movie. She did a ton. And of course, then she ended up doing Mums. But that was always the thing that she said a lot of people brought up on that. And she said, and whenever they brought it up, she said they were always business people that it impressed.
Yes.
So it resonated with us.
Of course.
And you're correct. So here's how it goes. So you've done the video channel. You've realized you've got some momentum. Your genius was just to actually start talking with people that liked you. And then you actually built up a community. And this just tickled me backwards. A membership purpose community
Yeah.
that you almost kind of took the piss out of.
Yeah.
So talk to us about what was the thought process behind monetizing it and how you actually monetized it and the language and the way you communicate with those people that dare buy the most expensive programs and the smallest programs.
Right. Yeah. Well, once again, it's just being honest about the reality of a situation instead of trying to come up with some story that you need people to buy into. Ironically, what is it? They always said, if you tell the truth, it's really easy to remember what you said.
Yep.
Right? It's only when you start lying about things that you have to keep track of remembering who you told what and in what order. It's like, now if you just tell the truth about things, then it's very easy to maintain communication. So we had been doing videos for a year, 2 years, and we were exhausted and we weren't making any money because the Vault channel is part of the nonprofit business school. So we can't derive any income from that. We started the Saturday channel, the Tribe channel, so that we had the ability to talk about whatever we wanted without the handcuffs of a nonprofit. And so we decided, you know what? Rex has a very, very successful video production business, shooting video content and commercials for business entrepreneurs. He's been doing it for a very long time. He's very good at it. And he was losing all of this time and having to like set clients aside and turn down work to keep up with shooting the videos for us. And so he said, look, there's this platform called Patreon. And I knew about it because I knew the guy, not personally, but I knew the guy who founded Patreon, and it was going to be a musician platform where musicians and artists could finally get paid for their work directly from their fans. And it didn't succeed as well at musicians, but all of a sudden when this new world of content creators showed up with podcasts and YouTube and, you know, everything, all of a sudden that is where it really found its mark. And so he said, look, we're going to create this thing where people can give monthly and there'll be tiers. They can join it and they will get perks for each tier. And our message is going to be, look, guys, we just need to make enough money from this thing that we can pay for all the videos that we're creating and the work we have to turn away in order to create them. We thought we would get, you know, $3,000 a month, which would be enough to replace like one or a couple clients or something like that, and buy some time for video production. And so we launched this thing. All right, guys, if you want to be in, and it just so happens at the time, we were starting the process of building a baby distillery on the for-profit side of the campus. And my original goal was so that it was going to be for the school. But even though it was going to be a for-profit thing, we were going to donate the use of it to the school and for teaching and stuff. Well, we went, okay, look, if we're going to ask for money from people, it was just going to be for video stuff. And we launched this thing, and overnight we had like 10 grand a month in signups. And I'll hit the levels that we hit in a second, but we immediately went, shit. $3,000 a month, that story is fine, right? Like, yes, it's paying for the videos. No one will feel bad about that money, right? But 10 grand a month, that's real money. And if all we do is go, thanks for your money, we'll keep making the videos we always made. Like, this thing's going to die in 2 months. And we actually went and studied Patreon, and they have a lot of statistics about this, but those funding platforms often go 0 to big explosion on launch because all the fans are like, yay, I want to support. And then if the content creator doesn't do anything to feed the Patreon group, and essentially what the bad ones do is they just keep doing the thing they always did. They just take the money. Then people paying realize I'm not getting anything, and he's still doing the same thing he was going to do when I wasn't paying him. So I don't really want to do this anymore. And somewhere around month 2 to 4, it just drops off a cliff and collapses. And then it's almost impossible to get it back out. And so when we hit that money, we went, shit, if we don't do something, this is going to collapse in the next 2 months. So we need a plan. What's the plan? And the plan became, fuck it, we're going to use this distillery, and it's going to be their distillery. And they are going to decide everything that distillery does. They're going to vote on the name. They're going to vote on what we make. They're going to vote on everything from the yeast that we use on a specific product to the grain mash bills, to the type of still we purchase, to where we make our heart cuts. They're going to just choose what barrels we age in. They're going to choose how old it is when we release it. They're going to label the bottle and choose the bottle and graphic design. At every level, they're going to vote. And if you are a part of that Patreon, you're involved. And you get to vote on everything. And then we're also going to reward various tiers with various things like quarterly shipments of merch and coins and things all for free that are all part of just being a member. And your name's on the wall of the distillery, or at a certain level, your name's on the bar top. And we did that, and we became what became Crowded Barrel Whiskey Company, is a craft distillery down here in Austin, Texas, that became the world's first crowd-sourced decision-making craft distillery. And they still are. I mean, a couple days ago, I put up a vote. We just finished a cask. I blended 3 casks together of a single malt, an unpeated malt, and we were trying to decide: do we bottle it at cask strength, or do we proof it to 105? Because the 105 was really the sweet spot, but a lot of people like to have the cask strength and then proof it to what they want. But if I could proof it to 105, we could increase bottle count and more people would have a chance at getting one. So the vote became, guys, do you want a smaller bottle count, but those who get it get cask? Or do you want a little larger bottle count, hit the sweet spot, and a few more people get a hand on a bottle? And they almost unanimously voted, let's proof it down so more people get it, which is unbelievable to me. What a community. But that turned into currently somewhere around $36,000 a month from this group that is funding the distillery. We've never had to get a bank loan.
Let me ask you a question. Do they get the bottles of whiskey free, or do they still have to buy their bottles?
They still have to buy the bottles.
So they're paying, or I shouldn't say paying, but the subscription model is allowing them an opinion.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. So you're just
never underestimate the power of being seen.
Right. No,
right?
I'm loving this, and I
having a voice.
It. That's great.
And we don't hide that. Like at no point are we like, no, your money is really what we say is like, guys, like some of these tiers, this is real money, and we get it. And I still can't believe this is happening, but we are going to deliver everything we said we would deliver, and we are absolutely going to give you a voice. We weekly sit down and try to make sure that we are coming up with things for them to decide that aren't like some sort of like coding of an illusion of choice, but are very real decisions. Because then if this thing will collapse, if at any point it looks like we're really doing what we want and making you feel like you have a choice, you know what I mean?
And you had a membership level that got to a point of capacity that you actually blocked it off.
Oh no, all of them.
Yeah,
all of them but the lowest. So all tiers except the lowest have been sold out for 2 years.
There's a black market on this, isn't
there?
Yeah,
there's a little group of people who every time a cancellation happens, they'll post a message, hey, there's a spot available, and then they'll be gone like that. Last year, we finally opened up like 500 new spots scattered across the tiers. And we did that in a vote. We actually polled the community and said, all right, guys, if you could be in any tier you wanted, where would you be? And then we used that to create gaps in all the things. And we said, okay, on this day, we're going to open up all of the tiers. Everybody shift around to where you want. And then we're going to lock it back down again. And we did it. And it sold out again. And the highest level, we put as a joke, because we thought it was funny. And we called it Demigod. And it's $1,000 a month. And the perk description is, you're probably drunk right now. I mean, you gotta be, because this is obscene. Like, well, I don't know why but thank you. You are amazing, and you will get everything that we ever do. And we've had 4 of those.
So, and these tiers, where can these tiers be seen? Which one of the websites is it?
So if you just go to whiskeytribe.com,
okay,
you can get to anywhere from there.
You can actually see that. And I urge you to go there, because the description on what you don't really get for the subscription models and
Oh,
the
yeah.
way the copy's written.
Yeah.
It just attracts you.
This is what happens when marketing communications professionals get involved in something. When we write the copy and we're like, we know what we're doing. There's a reason it's working.
But did you know this? Now, I'm going to flip-flop all the way back now. In your musical career, did you know that your skill was in marketing?
No. And I'm still a better musician than I am a marketer, but
are you making more money
there's
as
no
a
money in it.
marketer?
Yeah, no,
Right, okay.
yeah. But there's no money in it. Yeah. The irony is, I spent like 18 years as a full-time musician trying to get relatively famous and never really succeeded. And then, in 6 years as a marketing guy, now I get regularly recognized on the street, and it's like, what? How did that happen?
Doing videos of you
Yeah.
basically just drinking and humiliating people.
Yeah, just giving people shit. Yeah, that's it. It's I had no idea. Actually, it was a very rewarding thing for me. Well, because for a lot of people, especially in craft whiskey, see, craft whiskey is a lot like the independent music scene. A lot. It's made up of mostly artists, right? Craft whiskey guys, they're mostly artists who got into it for the love of the art of the thing. Very few of them, and really only stupid ones, thought they could start a whiskey distillery in order to get rich, because that's a terrible idea. There's far easier ways to make money. So all the ones I know and love who make whiskey in America, who are doing craft, and even the bigger distilleries in Scotland and Ireland and in the US, they're artists. They love what they do. They're obsessed with what they do. And most of them view marketing as a dirty word. They think, oh, marketers. Oh, you guys are one of those advertising people, and it's marketing stuff. I don't want to sully my hands with that kind of bullshit, right? And I always thought, oh, I recognize this. I had this conversation over and over and over with independent musicians. Oh, I just want to write my music, and I just want the world to hear my voice. And it's like, well, we need to market you as an artist. Oh, I don't know about that. I just need to do my art, and, right. But what those people don't realize is it's marketing isn't a bad word. It's just like car. It just describes a category of something, right? Marketing is an amplifying the message of a thing. That's it. All it is telling more people about something. I mean, when you go to a restaurant and you really loved it, you tell your friends, you just engaged in marketing, right? You're just communicating the message of something to a larger group. What people hate is assholes. And that's true across the board. And what they hate is shitty advertising and people who take unremarkable bullshit little things and try to turn it into a shtick in order to get money and get you to separate your wallet from you, and that's what people hate. They feel it's more like a, Barnum, just some way to trick you with a look at the two-headed, bodybuilder in this tent. And then you go in and you're like, fuck, it's not a two-headed bodybuilder, right? But you lost $20. That's how all of these people view marketing. And so one of my favorite things about this is that we've been able to help a lot of the craft guys that we love by showing them, like, look, if you have spent all of your energy making something amazing, you've done the right thing. We are now going to talk about it. And that's what will translate to money, right? This sentence that I hate, there's two sentences that I really, really just make me angry. One of them is those who can't do teach. The only people who say that have never tried to teach. Teaching is so hard. And there's two levels in knowledge. There's I know something, level one. There's I know it to the level that I can communicate my knowledge to someone else to the level that they will understand it. That is a whole other level of knowledge. And when you try to teach somebody something that's when you find all the gaps in your knowledge. And you realize you do something and they go, well, why did you do that? And you go, fuck, I don't know. Because, right? And then you have to go look and figure out, why do I do that? And all of a sudden you learn something. The other thing that I always hate is the same idea with marketing. It's like, oh, well, you just, make a good product and the people will find you. It's like, no, that's not how it works, right? Like, as an independent musician, I can name thousands of people that I've met and some know intimately who are better than anyone you've ever heard on music or on even a Spotify but they're completely unheard of because that was never communicated to the rest of the world, right? And I know a ton of astounding whiskey that no one's ever heard of because they don't know how to communicate to the rest of the world that they're there and what they're doing, you know? And then those people hire shitty marketers and shitty consultants who try to tell shitty stories to attract people to a product when the truth is way more remarkable, you know? And you get down and someone tells their story of why they're there and what they're doing and how they're doing it. And you're like, fuck, that's the story. If we could tell people that, you wouldn't be able to keep up with demand. But instead, some asshole from some corporate marketing company is like, let's talk about grained glass. And, you know, let's talk about how this is a 4th generation recipe, even though when they Google it, there is no 4th generation. It's, you know, like, we're going to name this whiskey after my great-great-grandfather who may or may not have at one point consumed some moonshine. It's like, well, that's bullshit, right? So no, marketing. Good marketing is just good communication. That's it. And we always tell that a bad business, effective marketing will kill it overnight. A good marketing can't make a bad business successful. If anything, it will kill it faster by drawing more attention to this bad thing, right?
Oh, that's good.
All good marketing can do is get the word out of the good thing. So you got to start with something good. You can't fix something bad with good advertising. It doesn't work.
Did you ever think, and I mentioned earlier about Ryan and you being on stage at one of the top marketing groups in the planet, and you're there talking about whiskey,
yeah,
and the relevance in the way that you term yourself, the way you act? Because I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that it takes zero effort for you to be you.
Yeah, right now.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I've always been the exact same in that. And so you focused on getting the message out to people that it resonates to. You're on the stage at one of the greatest marketing groups and conferences out there, where people are running industries completely different from you. SaaS industries, education, you know, marketing, Google, all of these different things. And they're listening to you and taking away those nuggets of how to communicate, how to build your tribe, how to include your tribe by just charging them for an opinion. And I do challenge. I remember when you started talking about that, I Googled it and I was looking through here and I was like, this is fucking ridiculous. You know, it is so simple. Anyone can do it. You almost have to go out of your way to avoid doing it. And did you ever think you'd be on the stage teaching marketers how to market using your whiskey experience?
No. No, it still doesn't feel like that, right? It's still like, even standing with Ryan, and I love Ryan. Even standing next to Ryan, I still feel like I don't understand what I'm doing here. Like, I feel like I stumbled onto something really cool, and the only thing I can do is go, guys, look at this. And then if you get something from that, then there was I can't remember who it was, and I'm going to butcher the quote because I don't have it memorized.
Okay.
It might have been Steinbeck, but it's an intro to a book, and he says, the reader here's this work that I've done. The reader will bring to it what he will get from it what he brings to it. The dull-witted will find nothing, and the smart will find things that I didn't even know were there. Right?
That is
and
good.
So
that is good.
That's always what I feel like happens when I'm talking to people about these things. Is it's like I just stumbled onto something. I'm just telling the story of this thing and I think I know why it worked, and I think I can see some valuable things that I've learned along the way. If you get anything from it, it's because you brought it to it. And you're like, we all know this, right? In a room, stupid people can sit in front of genius for hours and still not take away anything. And
Yeah.
intelligent people can pick the one nugget out of 2 hours of bullshit, and they'll grow their business with it. You know, and that's because of who they are, not necessarily because of who is standing on stage.
So you've got this far by finding a tribe, communicating with a tribe, optimizing, monetizing. What's next?
Fuck, I don't know. Honestly, we only have one thing right now that's or I should say, there's two things. The first is figuring out how to take this world we built and make it sustainable for Rex and I to not die at an early age
Right.
from the level of strain and stress and intensity of the production of the world that we've created. And that's real. I mean, even this last
Yeah.
month, Rex and I were sitting at lunch and just going like, God, I would kill for like 2 months of just like, if we just killed this whole thing for 2 months and we're like, guys, it's November, we'll see you in February. Chink! And we went dark. We are just on a ragged edge trying to keep up, because this whole time we've just been trying to keep up. So that's the one thing that we have then in that meeting, we were like, okay, let's start refocusing to how can this thing we built be something that we can sustain. So we're thinking about that intentionally now, and taking steps. The other thing is, and this is the only thing, our biggest weakness right now, and it's a big one, is deliverables. We are limited in getting our product and the things that we've created, not the videos, but the whiskey distillery, getting that to more people because of the laws around shipping whiskey and the laws around people getting and delivering of whiskey to that houses or delivering to retailers and things like that. There are all these limitations, and then the limitation of production size. I mean, our still is a baby still. It's a 125-gallon pot still. I mean, that makes a barrel a week, right? That when you've got places like Jameson making hundreds and hundreds of barrels a day, that's a real thing, right? So we can't grow ourselves beyond what we can create. And so, right, so like when I release a barrel for the distillery, that's 200 bottles. Well, that sells out. If it's something really magnetic, it sells out in hours. We can't grow the Patreon or the group of humans around this if every time we release something you can't get it. That's not sustainable. You know, I mean, you're going to only be a part of that club for so long before it's not fun anymore. It's almost depressing. So scalability of getting things we've created somehow, be it blending, sourcing, or making, into more hands, that's what's next. And we've got plans in motion, but that's what's next. Scalability.
And that's a very valid concern that a lot of entrepreneurs have. For one, they get, and entrepreneurs, we strive to find some kind of flow and system, and then we get very upset when we're shackled to a structure. There's nothing worse than someone going, right, at 10 o'clock every morning, you're doing this. Even if it's something you like, as entrepreneurs, we go, God, I wish I didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
You are stood in a bar with your buddy, shooting shit and drinking good whiskey. And even that can become a bind after a while.
Absolutely.
And now the scalability of, well, I can't scale because if I do, I've got to replicate me and I've got to replicate my product, which there's a ceiling on it because I can only, that's a valid concern with a lot of entrepreneurs, how they scale. And sadly, you're in it now.
Yeah. And honestly, this is why for years now, for almost 2 years, we turn away marketing opportunities weekly.
Oh, of course.
Like people come to us and they're like, we can put you in front of, 1 million people. And we were like, no, that is a terrible idea because we can't deliver to 1 million people. The worst thing you could do for us right now is to aggressively ramp up our notoriety because all that's going to do right now is increase the number of people who can't get what we do. And we need to wait until we figure out the scalable problem. And then once that's ready, then fuck yeah, let's do all of it.
then I'm very honored that you've been very open to actually explain that to our crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And for anyone watching it, still follow him, still subscribe,
Yeah.
still get on it, so that when he does solve this problem, you can go, excellent, he's done it, and I can jump on board.
And this is why I do these things. This is like, and you asked me before we started, like, hey, what's a win for you in this hangout session, which was very gracious of you. And I'm being completely honest in that I only choose to do things like this because I think they'll be interesting. And that's all I need out of this moment.
Well, I hope it has been.
Yeah, it seems like it would be a really fun session to hang out and chat. And so let's do that.
And the next time I'm in Austin, I will. I'll make sure to give you a holler in advance, and you can point out the whiskey in the glass, and we'll just sit on the curbstone and tell bad stories.
Done.
So what's the whiskey you're enjoying now?
Well, I'm in. Ironically, I'm in bottle kill mode right now because I've got a bunch of bottles at my house. That are low enough in volume that if I don't empty them, they're going to start to change quality. And so I'm just working my way through. Instead of what I want to drink, I'll just go, that one looks low. And
I do the same. I actually do the same. I'm very
This is a specific release of Balvenie. This is their week of peat. Once a year, they do a peated whiskey through the stills. And so this is 14-year-old peated Balvenie instead of their classic double.
I think I've got one of the other bottles of that in mine. I'm very lucky that people, when they try to bribe me or seduce me, I'm an easy date, so they just send me a bottle of whiskey. And my communication with them is based on how nice the whiskey was. But hey, Daniel, it's been thrilling to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Again, for anyone out there, this guy, it's a mastermind. You know, they call him the wizard, but this has been a master class on how to market and communicate with your tribe by doing something as simple and fucking as stupid as communicating with the people that want to be communicated with.
Yeah.
I absolutely love the simplicity and the pure genius of it. Daniel, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you, sir.
Look after yourself.
Cheers.